The impossible success, winter break. My favorite time of all. Yet this year, it's different. With all I've lost lately, I can't bring myself to once again enjoy the little shivers that are brought on by standing out in the dry arid cold. The taiga, if I may be so bold to call it that. As I go to the pantry once again to pull out another poisoned bottle of lament, I sadly remember I am to expect guests today. Thus, I shouldn't be inebriated before their arrival around about 2, as I look to the clock. I realize it's already noon, and my abode is in ruins. The gray curtains appear more faded than yesterday. The floor is in dire need of being mopped. The plants in the windowsill, although in pristine condition, look as though sorrow and solidarity are a touch away from wilting and rotting them to the bulb. I find myself unable to bring myself to do much. As I go to the kitchen, it seems as though the grim reaper has led me to this room. The now eerily pale white walls attempt to remind me of something. But the memory is too dark for me right now. I simply don't have the energy to deal with such a thing at the time. I had a meal to prepare, and not much time to do so. I turn, and the shadowy figure who has led me here has since vanished with no trace of them ever existing there. I shake away the thought, and continue with today's unfortunate plans. Once my family has arrived, I plan to have them fed and on their ways as quickly as possible, if not sooner. Everything seems to have a strange silver aura to it. And I can't seem to shake the feeling I've done something horribly wrong. I suddenly feel I have fallen through the very foundations of my home, to the depths of hell itself. I look to my right and realize it. I have spilled the cider I'd spent so long preparing. After all is taken care of, and most the guests have left, there is still my grandmother sitting at the hearth. She knows I've all but given up, but honestly I've just given up on giving up. As we talk over a lukewarm shot of gin, she starts a story by saying these 3 words to me: we all fail. One could sum the entirety of what I'm about to say in these short words. And if one only aims to succeed, never to fail, then they have locked themselves in a never-ending hell loop worthy of Tartarus itself. As long as you have survived, you have succeeded, you've won the battle. Take this for example: if one is to live only for the sake of others, they have failed themselves. If one only lives to serve themselves, they have failed humanity. There really is no winning in this life. We all fail. It hardly matters which path you choose. Red or blue, yourself or the world. Even if you find that little gray area, you'll still be unable to fully succeed. Whether you bring life into the world, or are forced into taking life out of the world, there will always be someone, if not you, ready to tell you how wrong your life is and how every bad decision has led you to this point. Even if you do nothing and just barely make it by, you or someone will eventually be discontent with the life you live, and the cycle is born anew. If one were to count all the failures in the world, he would be but one short as he realizes all the time wasted on these efforts. As well would be the one who counts all the successes. He will be always over by one as he counts what he has spent decades on as a victory. We all fail. The only time we don't fail, however, is when we wake from our dreary slumber in a bed of silken gray sheets. No light to see where we are and where we've been. We eventually make a choice to see the light as an absence of the dark, in the crevices where the dark can't reach up high enough to envelope it. Then, everything is more bright than any light we've ever seen. It pulls at our hearts, forcing us up into the yellow atmosphere above. We realize the cave we've been dwelling in has been helped to be dug little by those who we let in, but most of the work was done by our own hand. No, we will never get that time back. History has seemingly stolen it from us, but now we can see we gave it willingly. We are at fault, and that's okay. Tomorrow a new day is here. We've taken our remaining time back from the future. And as we finally start to see this, in this moment, we all succeed. I smile and a tear falls in my drink, however it's no more bitter than it had been before. I look up to thank her, tell her how necessary it was for me to hear this. However, she is gone. The fire is out, and barely smoldering coals are left. I look about, confused as to what has occurred. Then, as the cold begins grabbing and shaking my very bones, I realize the solemn truth. It was my grandmother who had passed in the spring, the one I couldn't go to see before she was lifted from this reality. It was her I had felt I failed the most. In my intoxication, she had grabbed me and told me how I'd only just failed her after all had come to pass. 2.
I have a smile. They say everyone has a smile that just needs to be found by someone else, but I don't believe it. I remember the smile I had as I was younger, so innocent and unaware of the world. Was it really a smile, or was I just forced to keep an act in front of my family, friends, even strangers? I asked myself in the mirror. As I grew older, I learned it wasn't really a smile but just another body part that I didn't love. A forced smile, a fake one, a hated one. Why do I look like this? I asked myself as I touched my face. Why do I feel like this? I shouted as I punched the mirror. I burst into tears, holding on to my head as I fell to the ground crying. You broke me, I heard a small voice say. I looked up and saw a little girl in the broken mirror. She had long brown hair with dark brown eyes, round face and pale skin. What? I said as I wiped my nose. I am from the future, sent to help you. The little girl said as she had the biggest smile on her face. What, that impossible? You're just a part of my imagination. You're just a mirror, a broken one anyway. I said as I looked back down. Peeved, I told you she wouldn't believe you, you're just a kid. Another voice said. I looked up and saw a young boy with black short curly hair with greenish eyes, strong jaw and tan skin. The boy looked down at the little girl and rolled his eyes. Shut it, Alexander. I am from the future. I may be a broken mirror, but I am telling the truth and not anyone's imagination. The little girl said as she pouted. Alexander rolled his eyes and looked at me. Look here, ma'am, we are from the future, sent to help you, because we'll look at you. Alexander said as the little girl punched him in his arm. Alexander, that is not helping. I am Natasha Selena of Elenata, but you can call me Nat for short. Nat said with a little accent. I began laughing and Nat began clapping her hands as Alexander shook his head. Man, I must be losing my marble. I am listening to a broken reflection mirror. I said as I shook my head. Nat stopped clapping her hands and looked at Alexander. Alexander sighed and stepped out the mirror. I slowly backed away, thinking that I finally had lost it. He held out his hand. Come on, if we are a part of your imagination, then we can't hurt you. Let us show you something. Alexander said as I looked at him. I slowly grabbed his hand, pulling myself up. Nat then jumped out the broken mirror and said, You got another mirror, cause there is no way we will be able to go home or show you the thing. I nodded my head and let go of Alexander's hand. I got out of the restroom and started to head to my room. Whoa, this is your home? Alexander said, kinda shocked. Yeah, I know it, not much, but it's what I got so far. I said as I pushed my room door open. I like it, it has such a pretty home feeling. Nat said as she grabbed my hand. Yeah, I guess so, I said as I held her hand. Wait, why, I'm talking to them, I mean I can't be imagining this, they feel real and feel human? I shook my head and entered my room as I saw Alexander looking out the window. It's just how I imagine it. I heard Alexander mumble, well, here we are, what do you want to show me that is so life-changing? I said as I let go of Nat's hand and looked at myself in the mirror. There's nothing much to look at except someone who realized the world isn't butterflies and rainbows. I said as I looked at Nat, who was admiring the hug mirror. If you dislike seeing yourself so much, why have a huge mirror in your bedroom? Alexander asked as I gave a sad chuckle. When I first moved in, the landlord offered to remove it because the recent owner builded it in and got evicted. When I saw it, I loved the idea of it. I got to look at myself every day and feel pretty and powerful. I said as I sat down in front of the mirror and Alexander stood next to it. It was pretty cool the first month until I noticed I gained more weight, I got fired from 4 jobs, the color in my eyes faded, bills started to pile up, and I don't have any time to do things I love anymore. I said as Nat came and sat in my lap. Alexander then looked in the mirror as Nat and I did. I started to notice I had this smile that I've been faking for years and never really had an actual smile that I loved but that others loved. I said as Alexander sat next to me. Everyone says be happy and everything will be fixed, but in reality nothing really is fixed with a smile or happiness. I said as Nat's smile began to fade away. So I shouldn't smile if I don't feel happy? Nat said as she moved closer to the mirror. I mean, in this world you can't really tell. If you smile then you're the happiest person and never experience struggles, but if you don't smile you're the biggest jerk and still don't understand struggles. If that makes sense, I said as I looked at Nat. So what you mean is, if you smile then you don't know what it's like to be sad, but if you don't smile then others assume you never.